3, 2.
Now, going in the same line, you have worked in different areas, which also involves that you have been working in many projects. So, which would you say has been the project that you have been involved and you have been most proud about?
Most proud. I usually like to do the projects that push the state of the art, so the possibilities the furthest. And I think in the last few years that has been two, I guess. That's making integrated optocouplers in CMOS, because making light in CMOS, that's virtually impossible, but we did it. Making optical link in CMOS, it's also almost impossible, but we did it. And making a highly sensitive receiver, also very hard. So combining that stuff, there was a lot of research with a few PhD students. Was really nice because that enables a lot of new possibilities. Another thing is work that's we're still doing. That's on switch mode RFPA. So that's what maybe in your iPhone 15 or something like that. And then the very efficient transmit systems. We started working on that a long time ago. And back then there were some papers like you can do it in this way or in that way. And when we were finished, it was not possible in just those two ways, but in infinite to the power 3 ways. So that's a little bit more. Yeah, and since then, and that's almost finished, we also made it in such a way that it can be adopted by industry, because now it's also robust and more accurate. So that's also what we did, and that's also a push towards, well, new possibilities.
Right. I'm curious about the first project you mentioned. What applications can have this, like in our daily activities?
The first one, that's the optocoupler stuff. Then a lot of applications, but that's also the strange type of applications, like in medical. You are not allowed to connect the patient to electronics. There must be some voltage domain separation.
Yes.
So that's what we can do using light. So light data.
Okay.
So without electrical interconnection between the patient and the electronics. Same reason, smart power. Over there I've got 2x100 watts class D audio power. It's sitting there. But that's a type of smart power where you have a low voltage domain driving a high power domain. And they also need some isolation, because otherwise if you would touch the low voltage part, you will also be connected to the high voltage part. So for those type of applications we can push it to new possibilities.
As we know, everything not always goes as planned, for sure. So I assume you have been through many tough times, maybe not, but anyway, do you have any advice for students that are starting in their life as students and they're gonna be later be working in the...
Of course you have to study hard and play hard, that's balance again, obviously, but also study hard. That doesn't mean that you have to spend 24 hours a day, because that's looking for efficiency 0, so that's a waste of time and you just get annoyed, but you have to put in some time. But it's also, and that's many times ill understood, it's very efficient to work on a problem that you can't solve right away. And then most people think like, okay, I'm already stuck for 5 seconds, let's go on internet to look for a solution or look for the answer. I could have done that by myself. But that's really a shame, because that prevents you from learning. And sometimes, or many times, it's really the most efficient, like, I can't solve it, so then you should be happy, like, yes, I'm gonna learn something.
Okay.
If I can solve it, then I have learned something. So just look at it, do the puzzle, try to solve it, maybe you read the book, maybe ask for one fake hint, never ask for a solution. And then if you can solve it by yourself, then you learned two things. Then you learned a solving skill that is useful for you for the rest of your life, because you have to solve a lot of stuff, because you have to shape the future. And in the context of that course or the module or whatever. So that's very important, but that's many times not done because people think that it's not efficient. But if you learn one thing in half an hour, and if you do that for your whole life, you will be the smartest person on this planet. That's that important to really be able to solve it by yourself. The answer is not important, but that knowledge that's in your head and that should be there, and preferably for the rest of your life, that's the most important thing. And if you learn more, you can do more. And it's not that you get 100 out of 100 exercises good. No, that's a waste of time. I'd rather have you spend a lot of time on exercises that you can solve in half an hour, and then maybe 10. And then your level of knowledge, your level of solving skills is way bigger than if you solve 100 and they are all okay because they're all it's too easy, it's a waste of time. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Then please do something else. Go play little tennis, football or whatever. That's more useful because then leisure.
Yeah, at least you do a sport or something.
Yes, that's more important than doing boring stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
And actually the most interesting stuff is the thing that doesn't really have an answer.
Yes, yes, and then if you learn from that's cool because that enables you to take the next step.
You've already told me what do you think of electrical engineering is going to be, why it's going to be important in the near and far future. But now tell me about you. You have told me also that you are involved in some projects right now. But what about in the future? Do you think in getting involved in another project, maybe start another company, more books? What are your plans for the future?
I'd like to do a lot, but there's not enough time. I have to have a little balance sometimes, and sometimes I spend a little bit too much time on working. So that's the pity. I would like to make the company bigger and to do a lot more over there. The projects, well, obviously I want to define a lot more to execute at this university. And if you execute them over here, you also educate people, usually master students, PhD students. Yesterday I was at NXP, Nijmegen, also to talk to them to define an ambitious new project to execute together with NXP Nijmegen, which is a win-win for the university, for the PhD students or master students who are going to do that, and for NXP. So that's pretty cool. Writing more books, yes, I like that because I try to teach people as much as I can, but also to give them a little bit different angle, and that's why I don't like a lot of books, because they don't challenge you, or they don't have the information, or it's directly way too deep in the material.
Yes.
And yeah, so it should be in such a way that that you learn most out of it. Also, when I have a talk over here for the group at the university for the PhD students, I usually try to get a topic which is weird, but which makes them think in a different way. Like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If I do this, if I know this, then I can also do that. Okay. So that's also the type of stuff that I want to do. I'd like to write books on that. That is just 168 hours a week, and in those 168 hours I also have to sleep, eat, play tennis, talk to my kids, wife.
There's just not enough time.
There's not enough time, and there's way too much interesting stuff.
I have to say, you don't have to answer this if you don't want. But one of the reasons that I chose this career is because of the economical benefits that this career brings. Could you tell us how much is the amount of money that a person in this career can expect from your experience?
Yeah, I know a little bit in the Netherlands, because we're in the Netherlands, and that's basically a hotspot in electronics in Europe and also in the world. So for analog design, that's usually the Europe and the mixed signal design as well. So if you start, if you've got your master degree, it's something like 50,000 euros a year, plus then you have a big chunk of money for your vacation, a big chunk of money at the end of the year, and your pension is paid for you. So if you add that on top of each other, because your employer pays almost half on top of that, but that's in your pension fund and in your medical insurance. So in some countries it looks like you earn more, but over here it's also paid a lot for you already. So it amounts to, I guess, something like if you start, what your employer in total pays for you, it's 70,000–80,000 euros a year.
Wow.
So and that translates into 100k US dollar roughly, right? Then if you would compare it to the US, in the US you've got 1 free day a year. If you're lucky. Over here it's something like 4 weeks, so that's also included. And obviously if you work longer, if you work already for 1 year, you earn more, and if you work for another year, so you earn more every year. And it's across the street from the university, a lot of companies are sitting there just to catch you guys before going somewhere else. So they will offer you jobs before you, or at the moment that you got your master diploma. If you do your PhD, then obviously a PhD in the Netherlands is a paid job, so you get paid by the university. You earn less money than if you work in a company, but after working for a few years you already made up that difference in money, because you, the start salary is higher and the rate in which it increases is also higher, and you get a different type of job. If you're a master student, by default your boss has a PhD, and if you have a PhD, well, by default you're in charge of a team and you can basically decide your own research within the scope of the company, obviously. And well, if you work for some years in a company, you can earn a lot more money. I know a lot of people over there who earn something like 150k euros a year.
Oh, wow.
Which is a decent amount
Pretty
for a nice job. So yeah, because usually you would have just a crappy job if you want to earn that much money. But yeah. So
okay.
So you can earn a lot of money.
Wow.
Do something useful for the world, and have fun.
Well, that was the last question, guys. Is there any final message you want to send to the students watching you?
I think I said most of the stuff, but just get everything out of your life and have fun, and that balance between study hard and play hard, because that's also very important. And one more, I like electrical engineering. I would recommend to do that, obviously, but I'm probably biased.
Yeah, a little bit. There you go, guys. Electrical engineering, a great career which you can basically shape the future, quoting Anne-Johan, and you have very astonishing economical benefits afterwards. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you, Anne, for this interview one more time. And hope you like it. Please subscribe, give us a like, and share if you think this is gonna be useful for someone else. Thank you.
En este país llevar alegrías y color.